Okay, got to talk about New Mexico home rentals. I got to tell you, I'm actually really excited about this
Okay.
because this is something I personally have been working on for at least a year and a half. I think November of 21 is when we first started working on this at the multiple listing service. Um, if you guys don't know, I'm involved with the multiple listing service here in Albuquerque, and we just launched a product. You can find it on a website called NM Home Rentals. I had to think about it for a second. nmhomerentals.com. It just launched this week. It's still kind of, I don't want to say beta test, but it's basically up and running, where you can go in there and search for properties for rent in the Albuquerque area. And Tracy, like when people would call us and say, "Hey, I thanks, but
Not in a position to
I'm not in a
buy.
position to buy, but I want to rent a home," what would we have to do before?
Well, I would give them a lot of different websites and say, here's a lot of the property managers in our area. And you have to look at their specific website to see what's available and call them in each individually.
Right. And people would go to Craigslist.
Yeah.
Talk about that and the problems
Yeah.
with that.
Craigslist, there's a lot of scams on Craigslist. A lot of times when we list a home for sale, a lot of times not too unusually, right?
Yeah, that's
We put
probably a better way. It's not.
not
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So we list a property for sale. What happens is some scammer goes in, takes our photos, looks up the ownership on some public site, and then puts that home as if it's available for rent on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace or on other sites. And they make it for rent. The rent price is usually a little below market, and they've got some sad story about them and how they had to leave quickly, and they just want a good family to love their house and rent it, and they make it for rent. And then in the words they send, if you inquire about it, or even sometimes right on the site, it says, yeah, there may be a real estate sign there, but please ignore that. We don't want the realtor to know we're trying to rent it. And so people go and they think they're getting a steal on a rental, and they pay somebody who doesn't own a house. They usually take the owner's name and make some sort of takeoff on the owner's name, so it's sort of similar.
Well, you mean like the email address? Yeah.
Yeah, they pretend that they're the owner, and they make something that's somewhat similar to
Yeah.
the owner's name. And we have had too many people being taken by that. So now we have NM homerentals.com.
So yeah, so to bring this back, so we've realized that in the Albuquerque area, and when I say Albuquerque, I'm talking about the whole metro. In fact, in this case, it includes Santa Fe as well. There's no reliable, let's say, source of truth or single source for searching for rental properties. Zillow's good, apartments.com is good. There's a handful of others, Zumper, that are national sites that are reputable. The problem is the Craigslist and the Facebook Marketplace, like you said, they're some of them are for real. Don't get me wrong; it's not like they're all scams. But the reason landlords would have to use those websites is they don't really have an alternate. There was, like, if you're trying to promote a property for rent, you didn't really have an alternate. Now we have one. So let me go back to this. New Mexico homerentals.com. It's actually
NM, you said.
Oh, is that what I said? You're right. It's nmhomerentals.com. It is a website that has for rent properties that are sourced from the multiple listing service. So anybody that's a realtor that's a member of the multiple listing service, and they put those properties that are for rent, so property managers, other people that have properties for rent, those properties show up on there. Also, our vendor who does this, Rental Beast, they're sourcing rental properties from a lot of the property managers in our market. And we went from having a couple hundred homes for rent on our multiple listing service to about 2,500 homes on this site now, where you can search for homes and apartments and properties for rent in Albuquerque. And we've just never had this before in our market.
I have a question about it because I haven't seen it yet. Is there a map? Is there any information? We get a lot of people from out of area, and they don't know what area of town they want to be in, or what their commute time might be to their new job or to their kids' school. Or
yeah, so when you go on there, it's just like most home search sites. You can put in price, bedroom, bathroom. Of course, in this case, it's price per month, rent price per month versus sale price. But it's you can put bedrooms, bath. It's got some neighborhoods right now. It's very basic, but there is a map feature. So you can, go in there and just put your polygon, put a circle in a certain area and zone in on a certain part of town. You can actually go in there and click on the map and drag it around and, search different parts. And as you drag it around, it updates of what's available. And you can put in like what dates you want it available. And one thing I want to make clear, this is not for like short-term rentals. This is not a replacement for Airbnb type platform or Vrbo. This is for, 1 month minimum leased, term type rental properties in the entire metro. So
it's great. What a great thing. Thanks for all your work on that.
Yeah. So that's, I want to get the word out. One thing about the scams, because one of the questions that have come up as we've been working on this is like, well, how do you know, people aren't putting fictitious, scammers in there, putting in fictitious properties or putting in properties that they don't own and trying to collect a deposit.
I did have that question. I was wondering that.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, when you're in here searching, it's going to say MLS sourced, meaning if it's MLS sourced, that means it came from a realtor that put it into the MLS. And people probably don't know this, but you know this is the MLS has very strict rules about, having good, accurate data, right? We want to make sure that our data is very clean and accurate about homes. The other part is our vendor Rental Beast. They're sourcing these from property managers through these property manager
like local companies and national companies that have rentals.
Yeah, they have rentals and they have their own systems to track that and update it. And so there is some checking and making sure that it's valid. Rental Beast actually puts a verification on properties where they've actually certified and verified that it's the right
That's
person.
Awesome.
But
good news.
And just one last thing on this for landlords. If you're a property owner, we always say the mom and pop landlord, right? I don't know. I don't know where that term came. Well, I know where that term came from, but somebody owns a couple homes or a couple apartments or has a duplex or, one house. And they, right now, if they want to put that property out, they would go to a company like apartments.com or Zillow and pay a fee to put the property up there. Well, now those people can actually go into this platform, certify who they are, certify that they're the owner of the property, and they can list those properties for sale as well. So
that's great.
That was a long conversation about
You've been working on it for a long time. So good job.
And it is going to be a real benefit for our community in helping people find properties.
Good.
And the best part of all, we're going to have good data on rentals in Albuquerque.
We'll know what things are renting for.
That's kind of been a challenge.
Yeah.